to show you guys how to do the colony breakup letter. So as you guys have kind of figured out, Thursdays and Fridays is always an assessment of what you learned on Monday and Tuesday. So I'm going to be assessing your knowledge by seeing if you guys can turn the Declaration of Independence into a breakup letter, which essentially is what it was. It was the world's most famous breakup letter. The colonists were saying to Britain, hey, we don't want to be a part of your country anymore. You've abused us, you've treated us badly, and we're done. So we're going to go off and be on our own because we think the single life is much better. So that's what you guys are doing in this video, or in this assignment. If you're watching this video, then obviously you're on the first slide. So these are the directions broken down on slide 2. So you are going to, after years of roller coaster relationship, it is finally for the colonists, time for the colonists to break up with King George. Now instead of just ghosting old George, your job is to tell him exactly why we are no longer being in a relationship with him and let him know that he did us wrong. You will pick 4 out of the 5 main grievances the colonists had about Great Britain and turn them into modern-day texts and notes. So these are grievances, which is just basically problems that they have. Like, what did the guy do to make them want to become their own country? He has refused to assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. So anytime the colonists want to come up with their own laws and to make things more peaceful, the king has said no. 2. He kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. This is the reason this is in our Bill of Rights, the fact that you can't quarter soldiers in people's homes, because the British were just sending soldiers to the colonies to live in people's houses and eat their food, and the colonists had no choice. It's like if some soldier just showed up at your door and says, I'm going to live here for the next month. And the king was saying, you don't have a choice. You don't get to say no. Whereas in the United States, we have that in our laws that says that soldiers can't come to your door and just say, I'm going to live here. That can't happen. 3, for cutting off our trade with other parts of the world. So basically to punish them for trying to trade elsewhere where things would be cheaper, the king said, no, you can't trade with anybody else. You only can trade with us. And we're going to make the prices sky high. 4, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. So this is about taxation without representation, meaning that a bunch of people in a place that has no idea how colonists work decided that they were going to put a bunch of taxes on them. The colonists should have had a say in those taxes, in what they believed in and what they should have. That's why we have a Senate and a House of Representatives, because if you want to have any kind of taxes, it has to go through those 2 bodies of houses, because those people represent us. We didn't have, as colonists, we didn't have representation in Britain. So it was a bunch of people who are not colonists deciding things for the colonists. So it's not fair because there's no representation. That's why in our society today we have that. 5, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. Again, another thing that you're going to find in the Bill of Rights is the fact that you have the right to a fair trial. You have the right to a trial of with 12 of your peers as the jury. You have the right of due process. You have the right to no cruel and unusual punishment. You have the right to remain silent. All those Miranda rights that you guys hear in like cop shows, like you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and can be held against you. You have the right to a lawyer. All those were things that the king wasn't allowing. He wasn't allowing them to have a jury of their peers. It was all British people. And who do you think the British people are going to convict? They're going to convict the colonists, especially if the colonist was accused of attacking British people. They're not going to be as friendly. Not only that, the judges were paid for, their salary was paid by the king. They're not going to go against the king. Their salary is paid by the king. And then a cruel and unusual punishment, they would drag you all the way to Great Britain, and then you get hung up in Great Britain, or killed, because of something you did in the colonist that the king decided was bad. Maybe you talked out against the king. Maybe you organized a protest. Those kinds of things were happening, and the colonists had no choice. They had no due process. They didn't even get a right. They were just thrown in jail and sometimes and not even told why they were put in jail. So these are all the problems that they were having. Now, there are many other problems. There's like over 20. But for this assignment, I only gave you 5. And the reason for that is I want to make it a little easier so you don't get lost in all of the words. So the tips. The text boxes on the text messages are small. Make sure your texts are short and sweet and to the point. We do not want King George to misinterpret what we mean. You want to make it very clear that you are breaking up with him. You do not want to be a part of his nation anymore. You do not like what's going on, and you are a free, independent, single country. So make sure you know, you definitely don't want that person coming back and saying, well, it didn't sound like a breakup. For the notes, you have more room. So use a little bit more detail and spill your heart out. So what you see here is you are going to pick 4 out of those 5 grievances. For this text message thing right here, you'll put the grievance that you chose from this slide. So let's say I chose the first one. I'd put that right here. And then I'm going to create a text message breakup scenario. So if you're breaking up somebody by text, which is pretty awful, and then you're going to include that grievance. So you're going to be creative with it. How do you break up with him while also mentioning that grievance? Then you're going to take another one of those grievances, you're going to write it right here, and instead of doing a text message, you're going to write a note. And you're going to, again, write a breakup letter using that grievance as the main reason you want to break up with them. And you're going to do this, I'm going to move this right here so that way they're next to each other. You're going to move this, you are going to do this 4 times. So you have the 2 that you did right here, which is the text and the note. And then you're going to do the 2 other grievances on slide 5. So you have, you list your grievance here and here. 1 will be a text message, 1 will be a note. Know that this assignment is due tomorrow, so there's no need to rush it. If you're having trouble with the assignment, ask for help in Google Meet, private comments, or remind. This is the point in the assignments where I'm just telling you, like, hey, you don't have to rush it, and here are the ways that you can ask for help. On slide 6, you're going to answer the question on page 9 of your student notebook number 2. You just click the little box to get to your digital notebook and make sure you complete page 9, which is the last page of that week. And then, as always, don't forget to hit turn in to mark as done in Google Classroom. So if you have any questions about this assignment or it just doesn't make sense, you can ask me in a Google Meet, you can ask me in Remind, you can ask me on a Google private comment, or even email. But other than that, thanks for listening.